Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we're going to be talking about Ripple and XRP. But before we fully jump on into this video, I just want to ask for all of those XRP holders out there and those that are a part of the XRP army, if you do support Ripple within this lawsuit, and if you have been watching everything unfold in the last couple of days and are against what the SEC has been doing, hit that like button and also comment down below #XRP Army, because I want to hear from all of you. I want to see the support, and I want to see how many of you are completely fed up with what the SEC has been doing, because they have been out of control. Now, let's jump in. Let's start with this tweet here from John Dean, and we do see, I can't imagine. And he's quoting Jesse Powell, who is the co-founder and CEO of Kraken FX. And we do see, I can't tell you how infuriating it is to have pointed out massive red flags and obviously illegal activity to regulators, only to have them ignore the issues for years. Their examples on why we can't do this is they're offshore. It's complicated. We're looking at everybody for years, then to be used as their example. And we're seeing these examples being made from complete nonsense outside of this Kraken FX situation. Luna, right? The Luna situation is laughable. A year later, I mean, come on. A year later, after things have happened, is crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy to me. It's when we look at what is happening with Luna, with the SEC going after it and saying, hey, we need to do this. To me, the biggest problem that I see with it is I think the SEC is trying to create this example and this environment around crypto where retail shouldn't be touching crypto at all because it's so risky. There's, so many things that, could happen where you lose all your money, and they're just kind of making this a fearful asset class to invest in. Now, again, when I look at this, it makes me even more bullish going forward because I've always shared with you guys my ideas on the internet. In the beginning, the internet, they wanted to regulate the hell out of it. They wanted to control it. They were scared of what could happen outside of the control aspect. The same is going on with crypto. See, they want to control this technology. In fact, in the SEC's world, or I shouldn't even say the SEC, but like in the elites and the suits world, a perfect scenario would be retail not being able to touch this technology in this asset class at all, and the big players controlling it, reaping the benefits, just like they do right now in the traditional world. See, I'm scared and I'm worried about retail not being awake, retail not opening their eyes and seeing what's actually happening. Because a lot of what we are seeing around regulations and regulatory actions from the SEC is complete garbage. Listen, they've opened the door of lack of transparency, lack of trust, and they're not giving us clarity at all on what deems a token, a currency, or a security. And that allows them to target any exchange. It allows them to target any project. And this is a big problem. This is a big, big deal. Now, hopefully, I say it right, hopefully we could see some sort of move within this case where the judge can see this as well, and she could see that the SEC is a complete disgrace of an agency funded by taxpayer money, which is the worst. It's the worst part that, U.S. taxpayers, not only if they invest it into XRP, get completely hurt off of stifled price action, but also we are the ones funding this agency, funding their actions against this entire asset class. Because again, remember, the US is falling behind deeply. The US has failed time and time again when it comes to technology. And I think that this is an area where we cannot afford to lose. Because if we lose the tech race around crypto, which it already is the case, then guess what? The US dollar is finished as a reserve currency. We will lose our dominance within the financial market because, again, DLT technology and the efficiencies around this technology are just far too great It's far too great to ignore. And again, I think that this is why we are seeing regulations trying to like we're seeing these regulators try to have these strict regulations to the point where they can control everything, where retail kind of gets cut out, right? But we do see from Digital Asset Investor, he's saying, hey, John Deaton, has the judge seen this? Where it talks about cryptocurrencies. This is from the SEC.gov's website. And it talks about cryptocurrencies. It talks about three: Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. Now, it talks about these currencies. They're saying that are generally accepted to be currencies and are not currently subject to regulation by the SEC. It mentions this, right? And the craziest thing is, we do see these three cryptocurrencies are treated as non-covered securities. Outside of these cryptocurrencies, investment in other cryptocurrencies is prohibited. Please note the following. You may not use these three allowed cryptocurrencies to invest in other cryptocurrencies. Crypto-based derivatives are treated as covered securities. Participation in an initial coin offering is treated as participation in IPOs and private placements. Participation in ICOs, IPOs, and private placements require prior approval by the CCO or the president. So they kind of went in depth on this, and it kind of goes against everything that we've seen from the SEC's actions in the last roughly almost now, 2 years and like almost 3 months? So it's kind of crazy that we see these documents from the SEC's website. And we actually do see from John E. Dean, he's saying, yes, it is in the brief that I filed. Now, what could happen next? Right? Because we've been patient so far. So we have a lot of information in these briefs. This is like one of many documents. Trust me, like there's so much within those briefs. And also, I'm sure that the Ripple lawyers are doing an incredible job because they do get paid to do so. We focus on, what's going to happen. Well, John Deaton believes that there's a high chance that the XRP SEC case going to a jury trial. He said that there was also a likelihood of XRP winning the lawsuit with a fine. Currently, the U.S. SEC and Ripple are awaiting the summary judgment by the court. The case is primarily contested on the SEC's argument that XRP is sold in the form of unregistered securities. The case dates back to December 2020 when Ripple was accused of raising over $1.3 billion illegally. So, the chances here, what we are focused on is basically the SEC case going forward to possibly a jury trial where we could see Ripple win the lawsuit with a fine. If that is the case, hey, I welcome it. But I would also love to see Ripple win completely and have XRP, deemed a currency and have 100% regulatory clarity. That would be a big, big game changer. But we are waiting. And we are waiting patiently for this. And I want to ask you guys out there that are watching, how long are you willing to wait for a final, just the finale to be fully finished around this case? I want to ask you, how long are you willing to wait? Now, also, I seen this tweet over here, right? We do see, if there ever was a catalyst for a favorable ruling for Ripple and XRP, it is this motion to unseal the Hinman speech documents. If it is granted by Judge Torres, and if Brad's description of it is true, he called the contents shocking, then there's no way to justify a ruling for the SEC under the public pressure and expectations that will develop as a result. And this has been another one that we've been focused on, is the Hinman documents. Those Hinman documents are so crucial. I think that they could 100% win the case for Ripple. I also believe that they are shocking. Listen, we just seen the Forbes magazine get pulled, or a Forbes article get fully pulled from Rosalind Lane, right? When we take a look at what's happening with the SEC, they have hid so much information from the general public so far. They continue to hide information from the public to this date. One big thing that could be a game changer around this case is the Hinman documents. And we continue to see Rosalind just go, like, honestly, the overall articles that Rosalind has written so far have been incredible to this day around putting a spotlight on the clear lack of transparency and the clear corruption of the SEC. And if you have read her articles, by now you're probably disgusted that if you live in the US and you're a taxpayer, that you are funding this agency of nonsense. So, if we are talking about what happens next, this case is crucial. It's the biggest thing that we've been focused on around XRP. And so far, we know that XRP is considered a currency by the entire world outside of the US and also by the FinCEN. The SEC doesn't have a faithful allegiance to the law. We know this. Shout out to Riz XRP. And also, right, it's very clear, this is a quote from Brad Garlinghouse, that the SEC is regulating through enforcement and is stifling innovation in the US. I think as we focus on the bigger picture here, there could not be a more important time to focus on the big picture. And you got to ask yourself, why is the SEC going after Ripple? Why is the SEC trying to leave the door open and attack as many crypto companies, projects, and exchanges as possible? It's one final discussion. It's the idea on the SEC doesn't want this asset class to thrive. And you got a question on who's given the SEC the orders? Because it's not just the SEC. Listen, we've seen time and time again in the last couple, months alone, Gary Gensler be questioned by higher-ups. Somebody much higher than Gary is giving orders and funding this complete nonsense. And I don't mean just taxpayer money. No, there's backdoor deals being made. And I would argue that's probably from the traditional financial world. Are we seeing the big banks? Are we seeing financial institutions? We have no idea. But I would not doubt it. Why? Because you got to remember how much money's being disrupted by, Ripple continuing to expand rapidly. How much money is on the line if the SEC cannot have strict regulations in mind to control this asset class and give power and control to those that want it? It's very similar to the internet, where they wanted to control it. They wanted that big piece of the pie for themselves. They will go to the depths to fight and try to get that control, try to get that power, because it's being questioned. It truly is being questioned right now from crypto. We're seeing the DLT technology being spotlighted around the world. We are seeing crypto being talked about. We're seeing major nations trying to push further. Like, the race is on to be the first ones to have a full-on crypto hub. And it's because at the end of the day, we know banks and these traditional players, these are going to be the ones that are going to get hurt the most from crypto thriving. I'm going to leave this video here. This is going to be the last segment of this video before I do the exit. And this is from 801_XRP. We do see, I don't think banks as we currently know them will exist in 50 years. There will still be banks. JP Morgan will be a company and they will do stuff. It will replace the system, replace the banking system. Listen closely to this video. This is from Brian Brooks talking about the future of banks and the banking system.
Yeah, I'll just speak to that. I don't think that's right. Like what I spent my time as controller doing was sort of raising the question of what constitutes a bank, what is banking, and the point that I tried to make in chartering the first fintech bank and then later the first crypto bank was the idea that banks are legacy money centers for the aggregation of capital and then the dissemination of capital into the economy, which is what we've always thought of banks as being, and that banks have to offer all of the services that we historically associate with banking to get a bank charter, is itself the false narrative. That was my point. So I did a lot of writing around the idea that there is an unbundling going on in financial services made possible by technology, where you can now engage in payments without taking deposits, I would argue. You couldn't do that 100 years ago. That was not technologically possible. And so my point about bringing them into the banking system, the reason it's not a contradiction, I don't think, is I don't think banks as we currently know them will exist in 50 years. There will still be banks. I mean, JP Morgan will be a company and they will do stuff. Yeah, replace the system, replace the banking system. So the banking system is based on the concept of the money center. Banks are just like the post office. It used to be that the only efficient way to send money or to send a letter from New York to Omaha was you had to collect all the letters in New York at the central post office so that they could be sorted by zip code and sent out somewhere. And then people invented internet, and you don't have to do that anymore. The need for the collector function, the central intermediary function, vanished because of technology. My argument is that's happening to banking. You can like it or not like it, but it inevitably is happening. And so my point is the system of supervision that we have, the system of risk management and disclosure, needs to be adapted to the new regime, just as Saleh says, the same way it applied to the old regime. The old regime won't be here in 50 years. And so how do we anticipate that and provide protections and risk management to make sure the new system works? That was my point.
Saleh, do you want to jump in on that?
And yes, this is exactly what's happening, and this is exactly why this technology is being targeted. Intermediaries, fully cut out. Do you know how much money that is? This is what's happening. This is what's happening right now. An entire disruption of the global banking system is underway. This is why they're trying to make examples. This is why they are trying to keep retail out. They don't want everyone to get rich. And again, everyone won't get rich. Listen, go look at the holders tabs for XRP. Go look at the holders tabs for some of these tokens. You know, those that were going to get rich off of Bitcoin already got rich off of Bitcoin. Those that were going to get rich off of certain tokens already got rich, right? But this market is still in its infancy. This market, this technology is still being looked at, being, talked about on what happens next. There's still so much money. There's still so much money left to come into this space, and it's going to pour in. Listen, that last obstacle, those regulations, what Brian Brooks was saying there, in terms of getting to that point where we could get the guardrails up. And guardrails, listen, regulations, there's good and bad. There's good and bad. I've talked about regulations that don't stifle innovation. I've talked about regulations that could help thrive this market. Those regulations will allow for trillions to pour in overnight. And that day is coming. That day is coming if we can get regulations done right, if we can, stop the SEC, which, again, the SEC to me is like a modern day mafia. They want to control everything. They want to control, the money flow. And they want to keep money flowing into the big bankers, their wallets. And guess what? It's just not going to happen. Technology will thrive, whether they like it or not, because outside of the US, we are already seeing it happen. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, up to you all. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night. Wherever you guys are on this before this has been Nick. Peace out, guys.